and the webcam, it kind of looked like it was in like timeout. Like it was like it was like taken off of its little stand and like facing like the wall, like not in action. And I like put it on. I was just like, oh, maybe, because Doug doesn't usually use it. So I was like, oh, maybe the morning show was just like, yeah, we're doing a new thing today, and I plugged it in. It just did not want to work. So this one seems to be fine. So I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so fun putting together. I love putting together playlists. Like
I do too, and I'm so glad we could get. Okay, so a little bit of a spoiler. There is some of the old source material from when we did your solo EP, but that's at the end of the show. Okay. And there's like maybe like 90 seconds left on this track, and then we'll like go back on the air. And well, we're on the air where it's just like the internet land now. Yeah, and that's like a different thing.
Like are you like juggling both on like on the radio waves and on internet waves at the same time right now?
Yeah, that's kind of okay. Wild. So that's kind of like one of the weirdest things about this show is it is completely live, and like I am basically just, and I've messed it up several times. Like there are a few episodes where you can like hear the background talking over the audio, but like yeah, like I am just like it is like an old like old school like vaudevillian like steampunk thing where I'm just flipping levers and like yes, man. So I kind of like it though. It suits my ADHD. Like I almost like need a bunch of things, just be like, oh yeah, this and this and that. Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy, but I like it. I don't know. Cool. Okay, so I think I usually have like just 5 questions that I usually just like, oh yeah, talk breaks. Like we'll ask this question. But if there's any, stand by, we're gonna go on the air. If there's anything you want to bring up, let me know and we can. But here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so you are going to have to bear with me. Hailu Mergia. I'm gonna butcher so many of these.
I think I feel. Pronunciations too, but
Tizeta, and that's a great tune. I actually was introduced to that in a different version, and I almost put that on the playlist, and I was just like, well, what? It was just like, I feel like that would be like almost pushing the envelope of my nerdiness of just like, and now we're gonna do this version. Yeah. And Toro Imwa, and then Hikiro Hayashi at the top of that set. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, and I'm speaking with Peter Miller of We Are the Willows. So we're making a mixtape for y'all, so I want to talk about this collaboration, because you just made a collaboration. We spoke with Orchid Eaton not too long ago on this show, and I love that record that they just put out. It's so like, it's cinematic and textural, and this collaboration, I love what y'all have done here. So can we just talk about how this came about? Were you working on this pre-pandemic, and then we're like, let's just shelve it? Or did this just kind of come about after like, hey, do you want to do a thing together? Like, how did this start?
Yeah, so I think it started with so I play in a band with Hillary James called Inside Voice. It's like drums and cello and loops and stuff. And we played with Orchid Eaton. And then after that show, Matt approached me about working on tunes together. And this was pre-pandemic, but we sort of were like using the same methodology that people were using over the pandemic of just sending files back and forth. And so we just did that for like 2 years, and just like really, one of the tunes came out like right away and was really quick. And then the other one just took a long time. It just took a lot of like noodling and fixing small things and adjusting things, and it was a really gratifying process. It was really tight.
I love the results, and
Thanks.
is there more on the way? Because there's 2 songs on the streaming services. Is that available? Is there more to come, or is that just all you worked on, or is there going to be some more part of a larger thing in the future?
We've got like, I would say like a 3 or 4 other tunes that are kind of like at their halfway point, and so I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to come out, if we're going to try to save it up for like a full length or just put it out bit by bit. But there's definitely more there, and we're really, really excited about like the whole process was just so fulfilling, and so like I think we both want more of that. So
I definitely want more of it. So that is good to hear. Also, I don't want to awkwardly push you into giving away trade secrets on the air if you don't have to. But welcome back to the show. I know this is a different project. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. This is the show where I make mixtapes for my guests based on the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. Today, we are making one for We Are the Willows. And okay, so this, once again, I'm going to butcher this artist's name. This track is called, once again, Mateo Bujarts? Can you help me on this? I am terrible.
I've been pronouncing Mathieu Bougers, and I think that's how you pronounce it, but he's a French songwriter.
I'm going to trust you, because that sounds right on the money. That sounds way better than me.
And the way that I've remembered it is really juvenile, but I just think of Matthew Boogers.
Oh, yeah.
It just stays with me because I'm a 10-year-old in my head. But yeah, he's a dude I've been listening to like nonstop for the last 2 years, and he put out a record this year, his first record in English, and it's just so good. It like this like list of songs are all songs where like if I need to like get to a different emotional space, these are songs that have been go-to songs the last year where I'm like, okay, I gotta get to a happier place, or no, I gotta think seriously about a thing for a little bit, or something. And like all of these tunes have been that for me, where they just like get me into a space, an emotional space. Really
all these tunes that you sent me, I was with the exception of a few artists or tunes I was unfamiliar with, but that's exactly what these songs did for me. Like right away, I was like, "Ooh, okay, all right, yeah." I think it's funny that I had no idea that this was his first record in English, because like this record actually is called In Anglais. Like but written in French. So let's listen to it, because this is a great song. This is a really great song. So here's once again here on KFAI. Okay, you can still hear me, right?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, perfect. All right,
cool.
That's like the every time there's like this little button that I gotta switch, where this one time I messed it up. So for like the whole show, anyone watching on the internet, like they would hear the on-air portion okay.
Yep.
And then when it came to this part, it would just be like for 2 hours. 2 hours. It's just like, no. Luckily they were cool about it, but like that was just definitely one of those things where I'm just like, yep, so that's just being broadcast. Just going out there as we speak. This record sounds old. Like it sounds way older than when it was released.
I mean, all of his records have this like kind of timeless feel that you know, like it's weird. Like his records from the 90s, I'm like, oh, this could actually be from today. Like it goes both ways with his music, and it's just like it's really cool. And all of like everything's so well engineered and mixed. And so it's like one of those, all of his records, you like put headphones on and listen to it, and you just feel totally immersed in these songs. It's masterful. It's really, really cool.
it's that stuff blows me away just because I don't like, I know enough how to like turn the thing on, get it working sort of. Like I guess I have like sort of an ear for just, you know, like adjusting your own amp and going like, oh, I guess I kind of like it like this. But like it wasn't until like I worked with like have you ever, do you know Brett Bouillon at all?
Yeah.
Like I got to do a few records with him in the wow, at this point more than a year ago. And it wasn't until I got to watch him work where I was just like, I just don't know anything. I don't know anything about anything. And it's really fun. Like it was the first time where that process, like I was so like, I realized I didn't know anything, but I wasn't intimidated by it. Like I wasn't sitting there going like, oh, they better not find out I don't know what I'm doing. Like it was more, it was the first time where that experience felt like fulfilling, and I got to appreciate like the art to just creating something to be immersed in. Like it's one thing to get the sounds right, but like when a good engineer knows how to kind of create a little space in your head, just using the technology of where, like, the way the speakers are going to treat those sounds on top of like making the tones, so, like that was where I was just like, oh man, it's like that was like the jazz of that art form, where I was just like, oh, you're thinking about the spaces that the notes aren't bouncing, you know, it's like that kind of, it's like, oh, you're thinking about the space these notes are going to be heard in, and that's I was like, oh, I've just never seen the forest through the trees for the last like 15 years. Like I that's why you do that. That's why people.
It's cool when you can bear witness to something like that, because it changes you as an artist. Like there have been some, you know, mixing engineers that I've like observed, and I've even, I think subconsciously on the other end of it, as I started writing new tunes, I was like mixing the songs as I was writing them. So it's like, okay, we've got high register stuff here, we've got low register stuff here. Like, start to be prescriptive about it, and sort of like, I don't know, it's cool how that can inform your songwriting. And with Mathieu Bougères, I just feel like the arrangements are so considered, and everything finds its place, or has its place. And it's like making tunes like that is really, really tough. And it
cool. Is. And it's a fun challenge. Like it almost feels like this might be a improper analogy, but like sometimes it almost feels like Folly for an old school radio show. Like the production is going to be so stark. Like you're just trying to get a good performance out of a good mic, so you have to like everything has to come from the arrangement, including like the textures and like just the way you're hitting things with your fingers.
Right.
Like one of those like performers, the way they're touching like the strings on their guitar, and then like having the other instruments come in is like, it's like sometimes you like a 2-minute song can be a masterclass, and like I sometimes I re-listen to Nick Drake's like solo acoustic stuff and realize like it sounds that way because he just sat with that guitar part and arranged it so it sounded like other instruments. And like it feels like such a raw one-off thing that he did. Like it was with like Pink Moon was done at like midnight or something.
Okay.
And I think like the lore is like he was so depressed at that point, like they had to like just get him to the studio, and he like just recorded it like on his back. And so like they just kind of like mic'd the room so you could hear the guitar and his vocals, but like, so it's like that story is great. It's fantastic, and it gives like so much like weight to what you're listening to.
Yeah.
But like also knowing that, like, if you listen to that record, like it's so, he arranged those parts where it's just like he had to perform it that way. There was no like overdubbing and like,
Mm-hmm.
and not that like overdubbing is cheating, but like it just
Oh.
it's like sometimes like you listen to a part and you're like, oh, they're just really good at that. like you ever had those conversations where like people are just like, oh, it's because like it's just like they had this texture over here, and I'm just like, yeah, it's also because they're probably just really good at music.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of what a lot of it boils down to. Yeah. They're just really good at that. Yeah. That's for
and
sure.
It's pretty amazing. We should celebrate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kate Bush has like 3 minutes. And Kate Bush, I feel like, is one of these artists like Nick Drake, where like it's almost like her catalog is like a national park that you can just visit. And it's like this like lofty place that like I feel like everyone visits eventually, or maybe they visited it when they were a kid and they didn't quite understand it, and like and now they have to like go back. Like it's like this weird place that I feel like everyone makes a pilgrimage where it's like, oh yeah, have you like
have you gone to Kate Bush
into running up that hill?
Yeah. Yeah. Man.
And it's I'm surprised she isn't sampled in more hip hop, or maybe she is, and I'm just not listening to the right stuff. Because like,
know that I've heard it. I mean, I don't listen to like a ton of hip hop, but I feel like I listen to enough that if people were using it, I would have heard it. But yeah, oh, she's so good. Yeah, transportive, man. I mean, that's kind of, you're getting to that with like her being in her own zone, but like that's really what her music is like, and yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, her stuff was always like I had to like grow into it. I feel like I feel like it's like getting into a pool in summer for the first time. Like when you like first like just kind of dip your toe into it, it's a little shocking. And once you get used to it, it's like you can get stuck in that zone for a while. Like I've gotten stuck in like the Kate Bush world for like it's or Bjork or PJ Harvey, where it's just like it's just all I listen to for like a good period of time. Like it's just that album.
It's weird how some artists are like that, where like there are some folks you can like listen to and be like, oh, that was good, and then like come back to it 6 months later. And then there's like Hounds of Love, that record. Whenever I listen to it, I'm like, well, I kind of have to buckle up, because I'm like, well, this is all I'm listening to for the next 3 months. Like that's just how I listen to Kate Bush. And some artists are like that. It's weird. I don't know what's going on there.
It's interesting because like I sometimes do this to artists where it's just like I over listen to them so much. Okay, I'm gonna play a cart after the song, where like I think I did this with Saint Vincent. Like I got obsessed with her last record to the point where it's just like this new one is good. It's fine. I feel like I need to take space before I dive in. You know. Hold on a sec here. Okay, so after this thing, I think, yes, after this, we will be back on the air.
That's good.
Stand by.
You're such a wizard right now. It's amazing.
Your words, not mine. Just... Kate Bush, Cloud Busting, and then Poppy Tree, Call Bells in the middle of that set here on KFAI. I'm making a mixtape for We Are the Willows, and I'm speaking with Peter from We Are the Willows right now, both virtually and on the air right now. So, okay, the reason for this, I don't want to say season.
I saw it coming.
It was coming. It's just like it's just a rhyme. It doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah.
But you have this new collaboration with Orchid Eaton out right now, and so this release show at the Turf Club. So not this week. The 20 is it the 28th?
It's the 28th. Yep.
So the 28th of August. Is this in celebration for this release, or is this is there another release yet to be associated with We Are the Willows that I don't even know about yet?
So this album release show at the Turf on the 28th is a celebration of a record we put out in June of 2020.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and so and we had like I think we put the first single out from that record in like early March or something like that, and then COVID hit in earnest, and so we're like, oh, okay, well, let's just keep pushing it online, and then I think the Third Precinct burned down like 2 or 3 days before the album came out, and we just all felt like it would have been super inappropriate for us to be promoting our music at that time. And in particular, it felt like Instagram particularly was a space where like people were sharing a lot of resources. And so either like where people can get food or where you can donate food or where you could be volunteering. And so we just like decided to press pause, and that just is what felt right to us. And so yeah, then we just like pressed pause on it for a year. And so it hasn't had like a much time out in the world. But the record came out in June of 2020, and so we're really excited to like play those songs for folks and
finally actually give it a proper celebration.
Yeah.
How does that feel after, because that is more than a year. I mean, like, you probably had that finished for how long already?
Yeah, I would say it was probably finished for a good 9 months prior to that.
Oh,
wait,
geez.
now let me think here. Yeah, I think so. I totally get lost in the timeline, but
well, yeah, now the timeline's all like squashed and then stretched, and like now nothing even makes sense anymore.
I know, I hardly ever even know what day it is. God. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it felt really, I've come to terms with it. It just is like the way the world shook out, and and we did what we felt was appropriate, and like even though it felt bad, it felt like the right thing, and that always kind of wins out in my mind. But it feels bad to like have spent all of this time and energy and money on this record, and then for it to kind of just like, even friends of ours are like, "Oh, you guys put a record out?" It's like, yeah. We didn't really talk about it. And I'm not sure how to talk about it now. Like, I guess, I don't know, maybe we could like do sponsored ads or something, and maybe we'll do that.
Weird. Just like, it's so weird. Like I feel I never felt like more of a jerk than talking about my art in the last 2 years of like, so what have you been up to? Really, I've been baking cakes and making music. Like, it's,
oh my gosh,
it's like, maybe let's talk about something else. And even when people want to hear about it, it still feels like awkward. But I'm really glad that you can celebrate it, because like I think there is like this weird I was listening to like a podcast with David Nichtern about this, of like he had an example of one of his meditation students like in a similar situation, because like he's one of those like I think he, after being on that midnight gospel show, he's been like the meditation teacher for the stars or something. So he's been like trying to cope with like a lot of musicians, and he had this one story of an ice sculptor who was just like, she sculpted this ice sculpture, and it was supposed to melt in a certain way that when the guests arrived, the way it decayed was almost like performance art. And it was like the way it unfolded as the event went on and as different speakers came, and she just like designed it just like as like, oh, this is my piece. As people show up, it's going to be one thing, and it's going to morph during the day. And I think it was for a wedding or something, but like it was in a remote location, and then the transportation for the guests got a flat tire, and she's at the venue just watching this sculpture melt. And she worked so hard on it, like a year designing it, so like the ice would just melt in a certain way, and she just watched the whole sculpture perform in front of her, and she was just like, how do I not have negative thoughts about this? I tried to be like, well, you know what, it was for somebody's wedding, it really wasn't my performance, like, you know, like, you really got to let this go. And he's just like, it's okay to feel bad about that. Like, if you made something with the intention of sharing it with people, and, you know, something took the people away from you that you couldn't control, it's okay. It is perfectly okay to feel bad about that, like, and understand that, like, you're not trying to make it about you. Like, you had the intention of sharing that and bringing the community together. It's like, it's not always nefarious, selfish things, but like, I don't know, maybe there's something. I know so many creatives who are, it's like, I think it goes both ways. It's either just like, yes, it's like either very Kanye or very meek and very out of the way. Speaking of Kanye, no, Kanye is not on not on the playlist, but it would be kind of cool if that was the transition. Cool. Like, speaking of Kanye, okay, so here on Desert Islands, I make mixtapes and talk a lot, and I'm talking with Peter from We Are the Willows right now. Let's keep going with the mixtape. We're gonna have some Caroline Rose and some Carly Rae Jepsen, but first, here's some Caroline Polachek here on KFAI. Okay, so now I forgot. See, now that we've done the video thing, sometimes I forget when we're on air.
Oh, sure.
Because it's basically the same kind of conversation flow.
Yeah.
But then, like, I either forget to like do the underwriting, or I just talk too dang much. So yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, if there is like some specific thing where it's like, hey, can we talk about this? Like, it's really easy for me to just like kind of like point the dog in that direction and let it let it just run there. Sure. But if not, like, just no worries. This is a pretty freewheeling thing, so I'm just happy you're back on the show.
Oh man, me too. Yeah, I think the main thing I wanted to talk about was like the release show. And
sure, yeah,
we've done that. But I wouldn't mind talking about that some more too, because
we'll probably hit on that at the top of the hour. Like, there's like a little section where I just talk about local shows happening, and I wanted to kind of reiterate that there too. And that's coming up, actually. I think like 2 more song sets, and that's how I lose track of time. And like, you get the underwriting things that stack up, and then you have to like play 4 of them in a row, which is it's not the best policy. But it happens. But also, like, I do have days where I'm like really on point with it, so it doesn't. Yeah, so we'll talk about that again. Perfect. All right. But so you've already been playing shows. This isn't like your inaugural show back. Like, you've had you've done. Were you at Keg and Case?
Yep, the band did a Keg and Case show, and that was really fun. And then I did like a solo backyard thing a couple weeks before that, and so yeah, this will be the band's second show and our first indoor show.
Whoa.
And so yeah, we're getting kind of like okay, like Delta cases are increasing.
Yeah,
And
I'm glad that they're at least making you show proof of a negative or vaccination, because like I've already done, like I was getting offers in May, and it was weird because I was getting like the sweaty palms because like I was like I was in that weird headspace where like at the time when it hit, we were kind of doing the math on everyone's pods, and I was just like, oh, there's like pregnant people in our pod.
yeah.
And then it becomes like that weird thing, like who's in your MySpace top 8? like like who do we, like how do we limit vectors? And then there was like this whole thing because we had like one of my roommates is immunocompromised, so it's just like it's just like, hey, I just kind of try to stay inside and write novels, and it would be really great if none of you go outside and get me sick. And it's just like, yeah, that makes sense, like that's fair. That's fair play. So like when it started opening up again, I was just like, all right, with that in mind, but also working events, there was also like that part of my brain where it's just like, well, I want to be mindful of like, I want to make sure I get my shots, and it's like 2 weeks after that. But I also want to kind of give it time to see like how it goes, because like people were throwing shows like in April, like straight up, like it was like. At first it was like, oh, it'll probably be a gradual thing, and like there was like definitely 1 or 2 venues who were like almost doing it as a statement. They're like, yeah, we're doing it, It's just like, okay guys, you're doing it. And then there were places that were just like kind of, I think they were just like financially hurting, and they're like, all right, let's figure out how we can do this. Like, can we open up the outdoor seating? Like, is the weather good enough? Or people, like, so like there was, I wanted to see how I was figuring out, because like working so many shows, I know all too well that no matter how big a sign you put, nobody's gonna read it. Yeah. Nobody, so like I didn't want people to like do this thing where it's like, okay, shows are back, and it was just like, because you've seen how the powers that be have run the economy the last 20, like it's just like, yeah, just keep going, just keep. It's like, well, what if it falls apart? It's not gonna fall apart. Just keep going. Like I wanted it to like actually. It's like, all right, are people gonna put thought behind this? And then so I waited until like June, and I tried my best to like keep it all outdoors.
Yeah.
But there were times where like you would have like a show that you booked like 6 weeks ago, and then you show up and it was supposed to be outdoors, but it was like during one of those like freakish heat dome days, and you're like in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, and the owner's just like, people just want to stay inside. We're doing it inside. And like as an artist, you're like, yeah, we're doing it, and we're doing it inside, I drove 5 hours to get here, and I'm not gonna like, we're not gonna refuse to play now, and I'm sure it'll be okay, But also like being in communication with their team, and it's just like all the indoor shows, like the crew is vaxxed, the bartender staff is vaxxed, so it's like it is a weird thing. Now, I don't know, like the shows actually have been great, but like there's like that weird guilt factor where it's just like, are we just making it worse for like a little touch of vanity? But then there's like this other part of me that like, or is this just like a little bit of like Lenny from Mice and Men, where it's just like, yeah, buddy, just keep looking into 2022. There's going to be shows for decades. It's going to be great. Just keep looking. Just keep looking. Okay, it's gonna we're gonna make it through this. Okay, like it just like it kind of, there's like a little bit of that where it's just like, wait, does everyone know that there's gonna be another wave, and people are just kind of like, we're doing it now. Before
Yeah,
I don't
that's so hard to know, because I mean, you know, I remember when I confirmed the release show, I was like, at that time, just like with the news that was around, it was like, you know what, things are hopeful. I think this is going to be good by the time it comes. And now that it's getting closer, it's like, oh well, things have changed a bit.
They
and like
have
I don't know if it's enough to like cancel it, but like
I know.
you
Well,
know, like
I think it, because it's at the Turf Club, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be like the homer here, because I will be working the Turf Club for tomorrow's show, but like we did have to get trained into like, you got to make sure, like, ask for the negative test, ask for the vax first, then the ID.
yeah.
You know, so like there is a protocol, because like here's what I think is going to happen. I do think there's going to be like another wave of something, but this is America. America is not going to lock down. It's like the populace is so over it. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's wrong or right. Like, I just know the American populace, like, some might be like, no, you're right, let's lock down again. But like, there is a healthy enough contingent that are just, they're not only not about it, they're like ready to fight about it. That I think all industries are just gonna like, they're just gonna soldier on, and it's just gonna become a thing where like, as artists, like, it's just like, all right, do you not play shows? And if you're financially capable of doing that, awesome. But if you're not, like, do you go full Kid Rock and just like take every offer that comes your way, or do you go the Jason Isbell route and like, you know, like, we're only gonna play places that like the staff is vaccinated and they require, you know, like, because I think it's gonna go that direction. Like, I think it's just, we're gonna have the mask debate, but now it's gonna be the vaccine passport debate, because this country is not really like, they're like, science is for nerds. We gotta get out there and get that bread, son. Like, it's just gonna be doing that, and it's just gonna be like, oh, you're gonna have artists who are like, oh, I don't support that menu because they would have burnt books back down Hitler. And then you're gonna have people who are like, I'm not playing there because you're putting people in danger and you're putting people at risk. And it's just like me personally, I only want to play places that do what First Ave is doing and do what the Cedar is doing. But at the same time, like, I also don't want to book a tour right now. You know, like, what is the? I don't know. I don't think it's going to get shut down, but I don't think we're over this. I don't think it's done.
No, for sure.
But what do you do about it? Like, this is like the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know. Is like, I don't know any of this. Like, I still meet people who are just like, they're just like, they make those jokes that imply that they don't believe the virus is real. And then, you know, like, I'm at my merch table kind of just like, all right, I'm just going to let that go over my head. You know, like, just kind of play dumb. Like, yeah, totally. Yeah. It's a beautiful day. And it's just like, yeah. Like, just like, just do like the Trey, do the Trey Parker and Matt Stone thing. Like, when they were wearing dresses on acid at the Oscars, like, just anytime they were asked about it, like, deflect to something else.
Yeah.
Like, because people bring it up like at you. Like, you could be talking about like, oh yeah, like you could be talking about guitar pedals and they'll like shoehorn it in, like, and you like didn't like, and it's just like, wait, am I supposed to take a stance on this? Like, I don't really want to I don't want to be on your podcast, bro. Like I I don't know what this is. I don't want to. I don't want to yell. I don't want to be yelled at, and I don't want to like just it's just so I don't know. I do know that whatever it is, it's gonna be big and loud and colorful and probably dumb, and it's gonna. I don't know. This song's almost over, and I try not to like get too political without saying something where it's just like, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Carly Rae Jepsen, everything he needs. Do you think we'll last forever? Caroline Rose. I think that's funny that song was talking over what we were talking about on the internet, where it's just like, do you think this will last forever? Door, Caroline Polachek in that set. And we are speaking with Peter Miller of We Are the Willows, and we're making a mixtape for We Are the Willows right now here on Desert Islands. So I wanna talk about the show again, which is next week. But we were kind of sort of talking about this. Do you have any plans? Because you had a Keg and Case show earlier this year, and you had a solo show. Do you have any plans to do any supplementary performances following this record, even if it's just live streaming?
I don't have any live stream setup stuff together, but I'm gonna be doing just like a few solo shows out of town, some like backyard stuff and coffee shop stuff, and then the band is doing a 4-week-long residencies in different towns in Minnesota.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
and it's through a grant we received through the State Arts Board, and so we did this a couple years ago, but we basically kind of like, set up camp in a town, and we do workshops with young people in schools and like older folks, and it all kind of like culminates at the end of the week with this final performance, and all of the like workshops and stuff are based around a record of ours called Picture Portrait, which was based on a bunch of letters my grandparents wrote to each other in the 40s. And so we're doing a lot of like talking and working through like family history and personal identity, and like, getting young people and old people to sort of like think about and consider that stuff and incorporate it in their creative lives. And so we've got 4 of those this year. I'm really curious to see what happens with those, particularly because we're interfacing with students, and in the past we've gone into senior centers and stuff like that, but I don't know how possible that'll be this year. But that's kind of the next like big thing for us as a band, and what we'll be focusing on for the year. I
love this idea. So how many towns? Is it 4 weeks or 4 towns, or do you do multiple towns in that 4 weeks?
So it's 4 towns. Each town we're there for a week. Yep. And a couple years ago, we were in Northfield, Red Wing, Detroit Lakes, and Winona.
Love Winona. Yeah. Those are So how do you decide? Which are those the towns this year as well? Or are they new? No,
this year we'll be in some new spots, and and it's really just like presenters at various theaters in those towns kind of like can, if I understand it right, sort of like bid for or like express interest in having us for that programming, and they can those dots. So
yeah, that makes sense. How do you work out the week itself? Like, do you is there, especially with the students, do you have like a dare I say the word curriculum, or is it more of like a can we talk about that?
Yeah,
because like I would love to know the activities of like, how do you plan Because it almost sounds like you're like planning like summer camp for adults in like a
It kind
where
of
it's just,
is.
yeah. So how do
Um,
you curate this like
so
how does it build throughout the week?
yeah, so it really varies depending on like who we're working with. For
Mhm.
example, in Northfield, we were working with Arcadia Charter School, and
Okay.
one of their directors is like extremely hands-on, and so with them we had like, you know, students were like learning. They had a choir, and so they were learning vocal
Right.
parts and singing on our songs, and were like practicing to perform with us at the final performance. There were dancers who choreographed a dance to one of the tunes. There were,
Wow.
and then like I think it was like the eighth graders. They're two different grades, but they were, you know, and this is what their director planned out. They interviewed their grandparents and then wrote like a 1 minute essay about their grandparents and read that at the performance. And so it really, really varies. So that was like extremely involved. And then at some other places, it was like, okay, we're in the classroom for a day, so we're gonna do like a Mad Libs song. So like, I'll come in with a big chart that has like some words, and they have to like fill it in, and then we like play it and sing it together, and that's the 45 minutes. So we're basically like developing curriculum for various possibilities, right? Like a 1 day, one classroom thing, or a week-long thing with the same kids. And so yeah, and then of course there's just like a ton of like thinking on your feet, where it's like, oh, this is what we planned,
Undoubtedly.
but
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
these kids don't really want to do this. So
Right. Yeah.
like in Winona, there were some kids who just were not interested in making a song. And so like it was wild. We just like ended up talking, and then they were just like frustrated with some things at their school. And so like it just became, okay, should we create a city or a student council? Do you guys have a
Yeah.
student council at your school? And like trying to get them interested in doing that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's really, really fun. A bunch of us in the band like have worked or are currently working in education, and so there's
Right.
kind of a
Yeah.
lot of natural crossover where we all feel pretty comfortable in a classroom and working with young people.
Right. Right.
And yeah, so but yeah, that's kind of it.
It's amazing like how many parallels there are between youth work and music, like because like there are certain aspects that are performative and you have to be mindful about intent versus impact, but
Yeah,
also you have to learn how to improvise because
totally.
there's always going to be things that just kind of don't go the way you had planned it. Either because like the Jenga tower fell over metaphorically or literally, or it just becomes like, as you were saying, like, oh, we got this great curriculum, and then you get there and like you find that these people are like, maybe if you met them 2 weeks earlier, they'd be all about the song, or maybe if
Right,
you met them 2 months later, they'd be all about the song. But at that
right.
point in their life, they just needed a group of adults to like actually talk to them like they were
Yeah,
adults for once in
yeah,
their lives, and sometimes that's all it is. And
yeah.
that's like it's a um I love this idea. I think it's fantastic, and I think so. Thank you for indulging me and,
Yeah, of course.
and talking about it.
Happy
So
to talk about it.
speaking of improvising, I gotta find a way to cram the rest of this mixtape onto the air. So we're talking with Peter from We Are the Willows, and y'all just did a collaboration with Orchid Eaton.
That's
I'm
correct.
actually going to play that a little bit later, but let's actually
Cool.
play some Orchid Eaton right now. Here's Blue Light
Mm.
on KFAI. I love that program. That's like so did you do a grant for this one as well?
Yeah,
And
yep. So
okay,
this is all through the Minnesota State Arts Board. It's a program that I don't know if it was. So we've worked with our good friend Bobby Maher, and
okay,
he like wrote the grant proposal, and I think has had a fair amount of like influence in designing this particular program.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, so we had such a great time, and it was so fulfilling, so challenging.
Yeah. I'll bet.
And the money is good, and that's nice. It's like nice to make good money when you're making your
Well,
art.
it's like, it's amazing how, like, it's amazing how baked in, because like you don't want to sound like what's his from Almost Famous, where it's just like the chicks are great and some money, but like you don't want to sound like that, but like at the same time there is a serious culture baked in to, I don't know, not just the United States, like just like I feel like Western culture, like that just like, just don't pay for art.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's like a mindset of just like, yeah, we just, no, you don't need to pay for that. And it's like, it's so crazy how like I feel like everyone involved, when they actually do pay for it, is like so much more fulfilled. Like the people with like deep pockets, when they actually like, no, let's like do this right, let's get staging, let's cater the thing, and it's going to be a great time. Like they feel like, yeah, that did something, and I got to like advertise my brand or whatever, and then people have a better time, and like people aren't, like it's just like amazing how different the results are. They're like night and day.
yeah.
And yet people are like, nah, that's why that doesn't, why would, no, we can get that cheaper, can't we get that cheaper? Like why let's not pay for it at all, actually.
Yeah.
Why are we paying for this?
Can I just do like a $14 a month subscription to get this?
Yeah,
Or,
it's like it's crazy. Like I do that too, though. Like I will like look at subscription things where I'm just like, it's like $50 a year. It's just like, that is literally less than $10 a month on stuff like you spend anyway. So I get it, but it's because of that. Like it's baked into all of us. Like we're not exempt from like we're all like in that thing. Like I can totally be like, I'll go somewhere and I'll like over tip and be like, oh yeah, I know how it is. But like when it comes to like a corporate thing where it's like, oh yeah, you just need to buy a $2.99 app. It's like, like we all have that in us, like it's all, it's just unfortunate that it's just kind of part of the thing. I mean, the only way you can really change it is like change your own personal habits. But even then, it's like veganism. Like you're gonna find yourself in places where it's like you have no options.
Sure.
Like, no matter like what choices you try to make, like there's always like that thing where like, you're kind of marooned, like in a weird.
Well, it's a weird thing. I mean, especially with music, it's just like there's just gotta be a better way for artists to release music and make some money from it. And you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I don't have any super bright ideas about that, but like,
I don't either. I do think I have like a lot of small ideas that I feel like are kind of like throwing a pail of water at like a 5-story building fire, where it's just like, here, let's try this. Like I think like one thing a venue could do is like, considering the fact that all the venues and restaurants are switching their menu to QR codes anyway, and you can like pay your bill through the QR code, just have a thing where you can tip the band via the QR code. Like it just like, I mean, like if you're not, like if you're not going to pay the band, and let's be real, most venues don't, Like they don't. Like I used to joke where it's just like, yeah, like why do you play out of town so much? I was like, because it's the only way to get paid. But it's just like, it's the only way to get paid. Like I go where love is being served. I go where there's like a check. And let's be real, like in the cities, you know, it's just there isn't a check for everybody apparently. But like the fact that so many of these venues are already putting that into the direction where it's just like, is it really that hard to just use that infrastructure to be like, look, just make it easier for the crowd to pay the band then. Like there's always like this weird onus about like put on the bands where it's just like I remember working door at a venue and the bartender was like this West Coast cat who like he was just like one of those dudes with money where it's just like, it's like the basis of that Dire Straits song where it's just like, that's the way you do it. You get money for free. You just like set up a music thing and like, you know, people will come and drink beer and like that's so like he just did that and then he just had it in his head like he would book bands from out of town, they'd come in, nobody is there, and then he's yelling at the band to bring people when he booked the band. And it's just like, it's a Friday night, man. How come this place isn't full? Like, where's the Friday night bar crowd? And I'm just like, okay, while I appreciate that, like while I get that this is a business, like there's show business. You can't have a show without some sort of business involved. That's just peachy. When does the burden go to the business to put on the show? Because if you're a bar and there's no crowd on Friday night, how come there's no crowd in your bar on Friday night? You're a bar.
Yeah.
Your existence is to just have regulars. You don't have regulars? You know, like you shouldn't have a band if you don't have regulars. You need to establish yourself as like a thing, a neighborhood institution, something where people know, like you know people's names. Like, you know the door guy's name, you know the person tending bar, maybe you know the owner's name, you know, like it's like you establish that and then go, you know, maybe we could have music. No, it was like everything was for show, everything was for, you know, appearances.
Yeah.
And there wasn't actually any like effort or infrastructure. It's just like, that's pretty common industry wide.
Totally.
Just
and
like
those kinds of business owners also don't want to pay bands when like the very reason people come in there is for the bands. And like, there are some things with that relationship where it's like, it needs to be a little better.
It's because I've been on both sides of that coin. Like I've been that young artist that got lucky and was on one of those bills where like a bigger artist drew, and because of that, like everyone got paid. But I've also been that artist that like, hey fellas, this was like an 8-band bill and everyone came here to see like me and the band after me. And now we're all getting $10. You know, like there's like a lot of that too, and it's because of the point you brought up earlier. Like there is like sometimes just people don't want to pay bands where it's like, even though like that brought all the money into the restaurant that night, there's like a weird thing. It's like that cartoon on the internet where someone was just like, hey, I made this, and they hand it to their friend and their friend just like holds it for like 2 panels and then they're like, I made this. Like, it just kind of became just like, wow, there's a great crowd here tonight. I've got a great restaurant.
I must be doing it right. Yeah, I've wondered if like the structure, like, you know, a lot of clubs do like 80% of the door, 90% of the door to bands, and I've just wondered like, wouldn't it just be more equitable, like 100% of the door to the bands? The bar takes all the bar, like
all the bar, all the food, you know, like what it's like, that's, I mean, that's kind of like how movie theaters work. You know, it's why concessions are so expensive, you know, and it's also how like clubs work, you know, like big clubs where like all they do is put music on stage, stuff on stage. Like they don't serve food. Like the reason that beer is like $8 is because like the door goes to Ticketmaster, the management, and then a tiny fee goes to the performer. And then, you know, like maybe 5% or 10% of that goes to the venue for like upkeep things. Like we've seen that buying tickets, but like venues pretty much rely on like taking their cut from what their venue actually sells, which is unfortunately alcohol. And I think that's another paradigm that needs to change. I'm not saying like venues need to stop selling alcohol. I'm saying like, okay, yes, and let's not take stuff away. Let's widen the tent. There's nothing wrong with people who want to go to a show and drink something responsibly and unwind, because that's their one weekend that they finally found a babysitter for the kids and they haven't seen this band since they were in high school. That's fine. Yeah. All I'm saying is like, what about kava? What about kombucha? What about like, you know, like there's all these new cultures of like, they're like just widen the tent. And I don't know how to do big structural change, but I do think if we just kind of have like little things where it's just like, yeah, like just put, this is where you can tip the band, or like just something like that.
Sure.
Because like a lot of times like venues will be like, well, we got a tip jar, don't we? It's just like, yeah, but like
it's over there in the corner and it's like under somebody's jacket.
or younger millennials and Zoomers don't even carry cash nowadays. We're like, most of the time where it's just like, it'd be easier to be like, I write my Venmo on the tip jar. And I've noticed this time around, like, especially with COVID, people don't want to put like, you'll just get like a little ding, you know, because they don't have to like shake hands or like, it's like, it works. And it's not much, but like it like I surely that has to work. Okay, this is going to be the we got David Huckfelt, Keith Secola, and Quiltman, all of which are going to be playing tonight in Duluth. So we also heard Al Church's new one. Well, okay, so that's hard to say because like Al Church's new one could be Al Church released like 8 records this year, so like, so that was from the blue version of what Al Church released. We had Al way back in February, where he had this was a different version, so it's kind of cool to watch him release these. And of course, we had Orchid Eaton, Blue Light, ahead of the blue version from Al Church. Okay, so yeah, let's get back on task here. So tonight in Duluth, pretty much now, like I music is going to run. There's going to be speakers, there's going to be performers, there's going to be musicians, there's going to be activists. They're all going to go to the Bayfront in Duluth. And this is an amazing cast because Quiltman, Keith Secola, and David Huckfelt, they're all going to be there, as well as Annie Humphrey, Charlie Parr, Hippocampus, Bon Iver, Superior Siren, so many more. So this is for Stop Line 3. This is, if you follow the show, I try not to get political. This is like the only issue I will like draw a line in the sand, because I don't think it's a political issue. We need to stop polluting our water. Like it's just kind of a, we just need to stop this. And this is a huge event. And if you are headed up there, or if you're in Duluth, I strongly suggest you check it out. Also today, locally at the Hook and Ladder, Electric Voodoo. This is their CD release tour. This is tonight at the Hook and Ladder. Tomorrow night on Thursday, Dan Rodriguez and Mother Banjo at the Cedar Cultural Center. A tribute to John Prine at the Turf Club. Oh man, this is an incredible cast. Becky Capel, Ben Cook Feltz. incredible cast of characters on the Turf Club website, but we have a lot of shows to talk about because a lot is going on. Also tomorrow, Lazy Scorsese album release show at the Entry. We're going to hear a track off of that release in just a second here. Friday, Folio single release show at Amsterdam with Partial Traces. Oh, actually, John Swardson, Partial Traces had to cancel, so John Swardson had to take over in their stead, and Bev at the Amsterdam and St. Paul. Also Friday, the Pleasure Horse release show at Mortimer's with Al Church and Supermodels. The Honey Dick album release show, that is a great band name. I just love saying Honey Dick on the air. Honey Dick album release show with Black Widows and Lydia Liza at Palmer's. Yes, you heard it right. The band is called Honey Dick, and the show is at Palmer's. Also, on Friday, kicking off is the Lowertown Guitar Festival, the Common Roots Festival in St. Cloud. These festivals start on Thursday, and they go all the way to Sunday. So Lowertown Guitar Festival in the Como Dockside Pavilion. That cast of characters is amazing as well. Saturday, I'll be at Common Roots. And also Friday and Saturday, Story Hill Fest. Story Hill, the band, they are going to throw their annual private festival. So go to their website and try to find tickets to that. It is at a private residence, but it is usually a good time. So if you're interested in that, feel free to contact them. Also Saturday, Trev Rock the Block at the Hook and Ladder Theater. This features Southside Desire, Brian Erb, and Bases Loaded, a tribute to Trevel Engelbretson at the Hook and Ladder under the canopy. Sunday, Murph, Rab, and Pack Rat at the Entry. Looking ahead, only every Monday at the Booze Joint Patio. That's every week. Also every week, Javier Trejo, Terminal Tuesday, live stream and in person. And then next week, so at the Turf Club, there's the tribute to Shania Twain. This is a little too short to be Stormtroopers. This is going to benefit Women's March Minnesota, and it's going to feature Mae Simpson, Diane Miller, Faith Boblet, Savannah Smith, Jaden James, Leslie Vincent. So that is going to be on Shania Twain's 56th birthday. And We Are the Willows release show at the Turf Club. So now that there was a lot going, this was an especially long one. Thank you for your patience.
That was a big list. That's awesome.
It was a huge list. So if you think I missed something, or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air, email it to Desert Islands, KFAI@gmail.com. I curate that list from everything you send me. So I think it's really cool that list gets bigger because more people keep finding out about the show and they want to hear me talk about events. So if there's something cool you think I missed, or you've got an event, send it my way. I curate that entire segment from what you send me on the email. I will catch stuff if you email, like send it on Twitter or Facebook. If you follow me there, feel free to follow me there. But easiest is the email. I kind of get eyes on all of it. So keep sending that. But I've talked enough. Let's talk about this Turf Club release show for We Are the Willows. And since Peter is here and I'm making a mixtape for We Are the Willows, why don't we ask Peter? So, okay, who is playing with you at the Turf Club next week? And it is the Saturday, the 28th? Yes?
That's correct. Yep. Saturday, August 28th. And we'll be joined by two really great bands from Minneapolis, Niall and Sass.
Yeah, nice.
And yeah, so I think it's gonna be like a really good, like I see a connective through line from all of our bands. But I think it's like it feels like it's going to be a big tent, as you've been talking,
Yes.
Like, I just feel like there's a lot of room for a lot of folks who like a lot of different kinds of things.
That's actually my favorite way to book bills, of like get three bands. Like, it's like there is a common thread, but they're all a little bit different. But if you go and catch all the bands, if you watch all the bands, you'll find the thread.
You'll be like, oh yeah, okay, I can see
there we go. Because that's another thing. Maybe it's like the school teacher in me, where like I'm trying to I try to curate events that like encourage crowd participation, or at least the crowd to stay from start to finish. But also, please check out that show. So next week at the Turf Club, We Are the Willows doing a release show at the Turf Club. So that record came out in what year is it? It's 2021, right? It came out in 2020, June of 2020.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I am actually going to play a track from your latest compilation with Orchid Eaton. So this is Tied Up in Knots, off of Keep Your Head Up. So not to switch gears, was like, hey, you're releasing this record. This isn't on it, but this is new, and this. So We Are the Willows, Orchid Eaton, Tied Up in Knots, off of Keep Your Head Up here on KFAI.
I like to think that those two songs are just getting like folded into the release show. Like, yeah, this is for you too. You know?
Yeah, I mean? Yeah. I like that, because like there's like a, I don't know. It's weird how, like, I think in years prior, I feel like it used to be like, oh, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear. I want to be surprised. Like, I want to go like and because like I'm gonna hear all the hits. Now I've noticed, like, it's almost like music and movies are going in opposite directions, where it's just like now artists will like release their whole album like 2 months before the show, just so fans can hear it, and then when they go to the show, they know the record.
Yeah.
Where now, like, I feel like movie fans, like, I grew up like, oh, I can't wait for the next movie trailers. Now movie fans are like, I don't want to see a trailer. I don't want to see a single trailer. Don't show me anything. Or like, where the music industry is just like, well, I want to hear it first before I go to that. Like, so it's like it's kind of good to have stuff in conjunction, and like have like supplemental things where it's just like, hey, for this album, but also, you know, like I kind of like it, because it's also like there's no right way to do it. I think anyone who says that there is probably selling a book.
Yeah. It's just it's just too nuanced and too like, it's too subjective. Everybody's like got, especially for like, you know, a band like us, who it's like, you know, none of us are like making a living just doing this, and like, so I don't know, there's just so many factors involved with like, okay, like this person has this amount of time, this person has this amount of time, we can all get together for this thing, and it's just like, I don't know, we're just like chasing after making as much art as we can and doing it as well as we can, and like making it as meaningful as we can, and so, and like trying to be smart about how it inevitably exists in the marketplace, but like, I don't know, anytime you try to like chase the dragon like of the marketplace and just like figure out how it works and try to plan around it, it changes, and it's just not worth your energy. Like,
like it's I was listening to like this podcast about like how the old records industry sold stuff, and it was like, it was kind of genius. Like, it wasn't run by pretentious art people who were like, I know what the market trends. It was run by the dudes who secretly owned all the jukeboxes. And they would just give the data to their friends who would print records, and then they'd just be like, hey, the kids are just listening to these songs, so you should just make more of those records. And then eventually those guys were like, oh wait, why don't I just start a record company, and then I'll sell all the records that are selling in my jukeboxes. And it wasn't like, this band is important and they're better than your band. Like, it was a matter of just like, it seems like kids like this, let's make more of that, and there's a pack of kids over here that are listening to that, let's make more of this. Like, it wasn't like something of like, it was like there was no soul to the business, but because of that, it was like the church and state thing. Like, there was like, soul was in the art, and like they let artists experiment like wildly, but like there was almost like a naive beauty to like how ruthless they just, like, it was just like a numbers game. It was just like, that one's doing this, so we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
And now there is like that weird thing where people are trying to chase the dragon and be like, oh no, we got to find the next Billie Eilish, even if we have to make her. Like, we'll just make her in a laboratory. Like,
Totally.
it's just so weird. Like,
Or like
and
artists, you know, like, I don't know, like if we spend all our time on social media, like trying to bang pots together enough to get people's attention, like, I don't know. I just can't. And and I'm not, you know, I spend a fair amount of time thinking about like smart ways to engage in the market, but like also it just can't be its own end. And if it doesn't
no,
like also like correlate with the art in a meaningful way, like then
right,
don't do it. Like,
right,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, we're in a time where like the industry of music is changing so much, and
yeah,
you know, in the last 5 years, for especially, like live music has been the only place where there really is any money for smaller bands. And
yeah,
now with that being such a like tenuous, uncertain thing, it's like, okay, well, what is the market now? How do you engage in this space? And
I don't
there are
know.
a lot of unknowns, and so like I kind of feel like you just have to do what you want to do. Do something that feels good to you,
Yeah,
and you know, who cares what it does out in the world? But you've made it, and it's
yeah,
meaningful to you. And
yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't know.
I, I,
Yeah.
I completely agree 100% with that. I think after a while, like when you're trying to like do so many things and like try like, oh, we should do a sound like this, we should do a sound like this, we should do a sound like this, like after a while the business is so brutal that for me personally, I feel like whatever I'm releasing into the world is more a reflection of like my personal growth or a metaphor thereof
Mm-hmm.
put into some like ephemeral project rather than like this is a commercial product or this is the sound
Right.
that's going to change the thing. It's more of like challenging the form and going like, hey, I was dealing with a lot of this, so like what if we did a bunch of party songs but made them sound terrible, you know? You
Yeah.
know, where it's
Sure.
like where it's just like party culture is terrifying and vapid and empty, and it's just like what if I made music that was party but it made you as anxious as it made me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, huh,
Totally.
that's an interesting concept. Is anyone gonna buy that? No idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's always been kind of the stuff I make, you know, like, or it's like it's and but I think for the most part all artists have been doing that, you know, like there are a few artists that like, I mean, I not to say Kanye again, because if I say Kanye for a third time, he might appear. But like, I do think he was one of those artists that could look at the trends and went like, if I made this, it would go, it would kill the game. You know, like I do think there are artists like that that can look at cultural zeitgeists and
Sure.
like, but for the most part, he wouldn't be doing that if he didn't like doing it. Like Kanye wouldn't like Kanye's Kanye, but like there is a little aspect of like Kanye is making Kanye's music because Kanye likes Kanye. Kanye likes listening to Kanye. You know, like it's like at the end of the day, he's doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
And but like I do think it's also more liberating too, because like you're divorcing yourself from expectation and you're just kind of like, it becomes like it almost becomes like a labyrinth, you know, like I'm just following my own trail here, and as long as I check the boxes on my journey, it's fine. Anything else is just gravy. You know, or maybe this is just perspectives of like a dying industry, I don't know, but like you know, like, but I think sustainability of just like, no, I just want to be able to not stop. I think.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not interested. I also don't want to take over the world as an artist. I don't want to be the artist that everyone sees. I kind of want to be, you know, like like that character actor where it's just like, yeah, it's fun to be adjacent to the glitz and glamour, but I also want to be able to get a sandwich. I'm I'm a very introverted person at the end of the day. I don't want to be surrounded by that much. Like I don't want that attention.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's like to go back to the ice sculpture thing. Like I only want the attention that was intended, where it's just like, oh, they need me to they need me to do a thing. I'm going to do this thing as best as I can. So they enjoy it because I'm going to enjoy myself, but I'm going to enjoy myself more if they enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like, but at the end of the, you know, like I kind of want my art to be like that, where it's just like, yes, this is intended for an audience. But yeah, I don't know, like, because clout isn't real. Like it doesn't like everyone's chasing it, but it's like it's not real. Oh, we're about to ascend to the temposphere. Okay, that's there's underwriting things that I keep forgetting to play, so I'm just gonna play those.
Great.
Okay, hold on. This is the last one. This is the last one, I swear. Okay. Hold on. All right, so after this one, this is going to be a little bit longer of a one. We'll be back on the air. And yeah, the song after this one is a bit long, so
okay. It's all good.
Yeah. Here we go. So 20 seconds left on this one.
Cool.
It's a standby. Okay, so we had a lot of local music in that last set. So things kind of started off with Orchid Eaton before the local calendar. They made a collaboration with We Are the Willows, which is out now, and the release show is next week, August 28th, at the Turf Club for We Are the Willows. Al Church has been releasing modular versions of records. So this was the blue version. And then David Huckfeld, who is playing the Stop Line 3 benefit in Duluth today. So we just heard Lazy Scorsese, Medicine Man 2.0. This will be on the new record that is getting released tomorrow at 7th Street Entry. That's this Thursday. We also had Folios. They're going to release a single this Friday, and I believe the full length is going to be coming out in October. So that's Martin Devaney's new project, new lo-fi band, and We Are the Willows and Orchid Eaton, the collaboration tied up in knots. We heard that at the top of the set. And so this release show is for a record that came out in 2020, and this new collaboration with Orchid Eaton, it works like so naturally. And it's incredible because I always feel like both of your projects have such lush and rich instrumentation. I was like really interested of just like, oh, well, like where do the edges connect? Like who's gonna fill in what space, and who's gonna so I was really interested to check this out. And so we talked about the release show, but I want to go back to this collaboration just for a second, because you mentioned there's more on the way, and you're in the process of making some now. Yeah. So so is there anything waiting in the wings, or are you kind of like constantly collaborating with Matt as you go?
It's kind of more the latter, that we're sort of constantly working on stuff. I think we pressed pause as we were like doing the administrative stuff to release these 2 songs.
Sure.
But yeah, there are like 3 or 4 songs that we're, waist deep into right now, and just like I think we're gonna be picking that stuff back up pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, it's been one of the things that's been really great about this project is like neither of us have any expectations for like when it will be done, when it should be done. Like it is just like purely about when we're able and want to focus on it. And the cool thing is that, like, I mean, just the pace we've found ourselves at was like whenever I would finish something, I'd send it off to him and he'd send something back pretty quickly. And then I would hear that and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm going to do this."
Yeah.
And it just kind of like kept going, and that the pace of it is like really, really nice. And I think having no expectations around it has just been like super helpful too. So
Right.
yeah.
So when you come in without the expectations, do you find that any natural patterns start to emerge? Like, who usually instigates? Do you usually come with a song and then like there becomes like an arrangement sent back, or do you get sent a song, or sometimes like a full thing is sent to you and it's just like I really need help with lyrics? Like how does your collaboration go back and forth?
Yeah, so far it all starts out with Matt sending me a like 1 to 10 minute like recording of some, like a vintage synthesizer patch or sequence.
Yeah.
And so, I've got like a dozen of these little like samples. And so on Keep Your Head Up on the track, like I just like took this thing, chopped it into bits, like recorded drums to it and kind of like a scratch melody, and then sent it back. And then like he would put in some guitars or bass, and then he would send it back. And then, with that tune, like as we were making it, we realized it's like a straight up pop song, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, like just like to a T, a pop song. It's like 3 minutes and 11 seconds long or something. But like, so we were like, okay, we're going to write to the form here, and like just tried to make sure everything was in place. And we just did that back and forth and like until it felt done. But so far everything started with like a synth patch, and and then I kind of like chop it up and structure a tune, and then from there we're like co-producing it and adding stuff and taking stuff away. And it's really fun.
How does it work from a songwriting standpoint? Were these songs that you always had lying around that just didn't fit in one of your projects, or were these just like spontaneous ideas that come like, oh, I have a song, I should send this to Peter, or like you're working on a song and be like, oh, let's try this on for size. Like, do you both go in writing lyrics, or is it more, does one person take the lion's share or the heavy lifting on that front?
So with these 2 songs, when he sent me the samples and I started structuring things out, I think I took the driver's seat on like melody and words and stuff. And
right.
But there's also, I mean, he's sent me a thing that we're working on where it's like he sent words and melody that he has, and like that's pretty much going to be the song. And so it's still pretty young too, this collaboration, so it's like I think it's going to change. And at least with these 2 songs, I think I did most of the like structuring, words and melody, and then we kind of like co-produced and co-wrote all of the other parts. But I don't know, I'm excited to see how it goes from here on out, because it could just like be totally different each time, and that would be really lovely and like exciting.
I'm excited to hear more, and I'm excited. I'm also excited to just like putting this project like in a place to grow in new directions, where it's like, it doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be what feels it needs to be at the moment.
Absolutely.
Okay. if people like what they heard, where can they hear it again? Because there is the We Are the Willows record that came out in June. The celebration for that is August 28th. Where can you get is this collaboration on both of your websites? Is it on streaming services?
Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
Yep. If a person were to look up "We Are the Willows" on any streaming service, they'd be able to find "Keep Your Head Up" on there. It's anywhere you listen to music, and it's as well on Orchid Eaton's pages too.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. This is the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests, 10 records they bring to a desert island. Today, I'm making one for We Are the Willows. We're speaking with Peter Miller of We Are the Willows right now, talking about their collaboration with Orchid Eaton, as well as the record they're celebrating at the Turf Club August 28th. This track was on the list for your solo EP. And I just like it. I just feel like this was one of those records that might end up on my desert island just because it was super formative. But here's some Stereolab here on KFAI. Yeah. Something about dots and loops is just like, I don't know. Like I like Stereolab. I like a lot of the records, but back then when I got into Stereolab, this was my favorite record, and I think even now, this is my favorite record.
Yeah, I think for me too. It's so weird because I came to that band pretty late. Like, I'd always heard about them and tried to listen to them, and like I remember when I first started listening to Sufjan Stevens in college, I had a friend who was just like, not like super into him. And he's like, he's just trying to be Stereolab. And I was like,
what?
But then and I can see the through line there. But I feel like there have been so many artists that I've loved who are clearly influenced by Stereolab. And so like they are just in my genetic makeup. And now like, it's like 3 or 4 years ago that I was like, okay, I'm gonna try listening to Stereolab again, listen to Dots and Loops. And it was just like light bulb went off, it clicked, and I was like, oh, this is okay. I see this present in so much of the music.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing how subtle their influence is. And it's just like, oh, whoa, that kind of reminds me of this record. And it's like, and I wonder if it's because like this record reminds me of like a really cool room that you just want to hang out in. And like that you just like go like, oh, I just want to go into like Dots and Loops for a while and just read and kind of look at the walls, and like the carpet's really soft and stuff. And so like I wonder if that's like true for other artists, where like this is a record where it's just like you just kind of go and like sit and just kind of, and after a while when they're working on like, because it's not with like Sufjan's influence was almost like the way stand-up comics talk about like Dave Attell, where it's just like suddenly everyone was talking like Dave Attell over and over, like people, like I remember when Sufjan broke, it was like first it was just like, have you heard of Sufjan Stevens? And then it was just like, which record? And then everyone started sounding like Sufjan Stevens. Everyone sang like this. Everyone. It was cool, but like all my friends were doing it. I was doing it. We were all doing it. We were all writing that way. We were all singing that way. We were all writing to sing that way. Where I feel like Stereolab's influence is like way more subtle. Like there are bands who is just like, they don't even sound like Stereolab. They're just like, oh yeah, man, Dots and Loops. I just need to find that Farfisa organ, and like it's in my band now. There'll be like subtle groove structures where it's just like they're it's almost like I like what the genetic makeup. Like it's almost like, I like how you put that, because it is like a very in the background of like, oh yeah, the DNA is in the bones of this record. Like it's totally. it's in everywhere. But yeah, Sufjan is one of those artists I was obsessed with almost to the point where like I had to take a break from listening to his new stuff because like I devoured like Michigan, and then I was just like, I need everything he's ever done. And then when Illinois came out, I was just like, Sufjan can do no wrong. Sufjan is like the new that like this is the songwriter everyone needs to be following. And then it's not that his creative output like got to a place where I was just like, I don't like Sufjan anymore. It's like it's the same thing with bands like Wilco or and I mentioned St. Vincent. It's like it's not that I stopped liking them. It's just like there's so much content, and then like you're working on stuff in your own life, and then you have to like go back to the other thing, and then like Sufjan just like has like 6 whole records that I didn't even listen to yet, and then that becomes like a thing. Like it almost becomes like a homework assignment where you're like, I know I should listen to this record, but it's like 80 minutes long, and you just released another one. It was more like that. I kind of fell behind. Like I'm like 2 seasons behind Sufjan. Like I haven't watched it yet, but like everything he does is. Because I came back when he released his new record. I didn't really listen to anything in between.
Okay.
But that's when I was like, man, he never went away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's always kind of like a hermit, but like he never stopped growing as an artist at all.
Yeah.
And I think 2020 made me really appreciate his perspective. Which is weird because like normally I was all like, Sufjan, can you tone it down with the Christianity? But now I'm just like, no, like give me more. Give me more of the Christianity. I want to hear your perspective because I think we all need.
I want another song about baptism, please.
Yeah, like I think we all need a little bit of that, or at least like I don't know. Like I don't know if Sufjan will ever do the David Bazan album where it's just like I became a drunk, lost my faith, kinda. I don't know. I'm still hopeful. I don't know. It makes me feel really guilty. Like I don't know if I want that album from Sufjan. I think like a little part of me wants me to like. It's like no, if Sufjan doesn't believe. Like I don't. Is there hope for the world? Like I want Sufjan to stay there. Like I kind of like that perspective of someone. Yeah, I don't know, but not all of his work is Christian though. There's overtones.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, but I mean, it's certainly not like. I mean, I grew up in the church, and like Sufjan's not Christian music in this way that like DC Talk was Christian music, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, even Reliant K is more Christian than Sufjan.
Yeah, I think
like,
so.
I feel like when Sufjan goes Christian, like Reliant K tries to do that thing where like they try to hide it a little bit. Like when Sufjan goes Christian, it's like in the song title. Like, it's like he's like kind of like, no, this is a hymn. This is intended for a mass.
There's like that like, In the Shadow of the Cross, I think is one.
Yeah.
Carrie and Lowell. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he's not. I would say that's more in the genetic makeup of his stuff. Like it's not like he's not a Christian artist. He's just an artist who happens to be Christian.
Yeah, I think that's.
And he takes his faith seriously, so it's just eventually going to come up. Like I don't think he's trying to like jam it down throats of people. But I feel like the last record, he still wasn't trying to jam it down throats of people. But there were like a few lyrics where like he was definitely like using what he got from his faith to like inform his opinion about what he was writing about, and just you know, like I feel like his last record, like there was definitely some perspectives of just like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't want to be in your video game. I don't like the way we deify like ephemeral celebrities. I don't like the way you're trying to make me be one every time I do this song and dance thing where I release an album, and I don't really think that should be the goal of society. You know, I really think we should rethink how we interact with people who do this.
Yeah.
And like, it's because cynicism is so easy, and I really, even though I didn't really hold on to the faith, because I was like raised in the church as well, but Catholic, this is different.
Yeah.
So like, even though I don't like really keep the faith, there's like certain things that like just you hold on to, or maybe they hold on to you.
Sure.
So I think for me, when Christian artists, like I definitely value that perspective. Like when stuff goes awry, I really value perspectives of people. Like I already value their perspective, but like people that like keep their faith. Because I feel like after a while, like a lot of my friends are like cynical punks, and it's just like, yeah, all right, you know, it's, you have a funny, you know, like you're like a gruff Noam Chomsky, you know, like, you know, like everything's messed up and it's all a racket, and I get that, but like, I don't know, there's a place for righteous anger.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because it believes in another possibility, and or it assumes that the world ought to be a particular way, and when it's not that way, you know, right? There's like this justification to it, and and unfortunately, a lot of like the Christian culture in America right now is like that way about just the dumbest stuff. But but I get what you're saying about like there being some comfort to folks who have like kept their faith.
Yeah.
So the world is a place that is difficult to have faith, and
yes.
Yeah, I get that. But
and it's not that like it's not that like I'm it's not that I'm like making a call to action for artists to like make more religious work. I think it's just because of that perspective, there is like a new Christian like caucus that wields a lot of power, that I feel like make Christians of a different persuasion, either on the political like spectrum, they're like a loud part of the faith that they almost feel embarrassed by, and they don't like speak up about it.
Sure.
You know, like it's like, and there's like this weird like my friend who keeps the faith, she talks about this all the time, where it's just like the Christian left really dropped the ball on, like there was like this whole thing where it's just like, let the crazies be crazies, you know, because people are going to come to our church to experience the real Christianity, you know, like these people are going to drive everyone away. And actually the opposite happened. Like like it became louder and louder, to the point where like people who didn't follow the faith associated the faith with that. And then there are some people who kept the faith who like doubled down and became like, this is the faith. And like they're, you know, so because of that, like it almost feels like being Christian is something you have to apologize for now.
Yeah.
And there are so many, like, not that religion should be political, but like there are she was saying there were so many missed opportunities to be like political for like the hippy dippy causes and just be like, no, Christianity is a really like, you know, hippy dippy religion when you get down to it. You know, it's about like trying to, you know, love one another and make sure everyone's taken care of and make sure everyone's clothed and sheltered. And like, you know, it's not a very it's not a very popular thing in the States because we are, I don't know, we are what we are as far as that goes in America. But like I think because of that, because that became so part of everything in American political discourse, like it is refreshing when Christian artists actually come out and say like, no, yeah, I still consider myself Christian, and I'm, you know, like I disagree with that. Here are my feelings on that. So it's like there is, but like I do like what you said about like there is a comfort, and I don't know if it has become because I was raised in it, and there's like an assuage of guilt, you know, like of because that's huge in the Catholic thing. Like there is like a guilt thing where almost where it's just like, oh, okay, well, like is it, as long as someone else is still doing it, I feel, I feel less like guilty for like, you know, I'm not letting grandma down, you know, like that, like that kind of feeling of it. Like I think like let's be real, a little bit is that. But this is a really long Stereolab song.
It's long enough to take a deep dive into Christianity.
Oh yeah. That's actually like my favorite thing. Do you know Gabriel Roderick of Treading North and Freak?
I don't think I do.
Oh, you should check out his stuff. Because one, I think you'd actually like his art like a lot. Like he's a really good visual artist and performer and singer songwriter. But like it's funny because like the last time he was on this show, like it's like we're not going to go there, we're not going to talk about it, and then we did. It's like we always, but like it's funny because I kind of enjoy talking about it because I think it's like I think it is a topic a lot of people were like, oh dear, let's not go there. But I don't know. I like talking about it because I have had my own journey with it. And I have so many friends who are just like, we need to get rid of religion. I'm just like, no, because something is going to, like, it's always going to be there. Something is always going to be there.
Yeah.
And if you try to get rid of it by force, what's going to replace it is stuff like Scientology, but with guns. You know, like, so like let's let people have that, you know, like it's not.
And I think you mentioned earlier too that like I think one of the most disturbing things about the last like 5 years, like with regards to Christianity, is to just see Christians like wholesale acceptance of Donald Trump. And like,
yes,
and it's just, and it's so disheartening, particularly because like, you know, though I'm not like, I would not consider myself a Christian, like there are so many Christian values that I think are like, fundamental to like being decent in the world. And and also like, I don't know, I feel like the Bible's a perfect, like I'm like a socialist leaning person, and those values are in the Bible. If you are like reading the words of Jesus, you're like, oh, this guy kind of seems like a socialist. You know what I mean?
Like he would be ripped apart on Fox News. If he came back, we would absolutely kill him again, literally or metaphorically. Like it's like it's not even the Christians of today would not be down with their Christ, which is really weird. And it's also like the Donald Trump thing. infuriated me because I feel like I have a lot of childhood trauma around Christians, and I'm just like, wait a minute, these people who judged me so harshly and made me feel so small for things I was just trying to figure out as a kid, or things I couldn't change about myself.
Right.
And I I kept the faith really hard too. It's like there are things that are ingrained in my personality that I cannot change.
Yeah.
Because of what growing up in the Catholic Church, like both good and bad. Let's be real. But like I had so much anger, but it was also like it's written in the book of Revelation that like it's written in the book that a charismatic person who is literally about the exact opposite that we taught you to be about will come along and convince you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was, I think that was the craziest thing, was like watching that go like, whoa, it actually happened. Like it totally happened that way. Let's do a quick break because we're about to go into Democracy Now! Here. Okay, so that was St. Vincent, Actor Out of Work, Refractions in a Plastic Purse, Stereolab. I have an affinity for playing extremely long songs on the air, but we are about to run into Democracy Now! And I made a mixtape for We Are the Willows, so I figure let's give Peter, is there anything you would like the listeners to know about before we get going here, before we sign off?
Apart from coming to our release show at the Turf on the 28th, no, just that. And I guess
excellent.
Let's all do our best to be decent to one another.
Yes. Be excellent. Be excellent to each other. Next week, I'm going to be talking with Nate from Tree Dome. And the week after that, I'm going to be talking with Fires of Denmark. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! Okay, I gotta play this. Gotta play this, and then I gotta get this thing onto the thing and the stuff. Hold on. All right, I'm actually gonna sign off here, just because I gotta make sure. But Peter, it was great to see you. Great to talk to you again. And I'm actually in Rochester the night of your show, so I'm gonna miss it. I'm sorry, but I hope it's great.
It's all good, man. Thank you.
Yeah, stay safe out there.
All right, take care. See ya.